Hi, welcome to the Indie Wine Podcast. My name is Matt Wood, and this is episode 85. We have a couple folks here today who got the day off from podcast hosting and are on the other side of the mic. I'm here with Sam from Winery 16600, Chris from Bedrock Wine Company and Under the Wire, and Mireia, a viticulturist at Enterprise Vineyards, and we're here talking about the S.O.R.B.E.T tasting, how it came about, who is putting it on, who is pouring wine, and what the acronym stands for. Sonoma Organic Regenerative Biodynamic Educational Tasting. It's happening Sunday, August 17th at Fort Mason in San Francisco, and I hope you can attend. A quick reminder that I have a Patreon at patreon.com/IndieWinePodcast. The link is in the show notes also. If you're enjoying the podcast, any amount to help me keep telling wine stories ad-free and available for everyone is appreciated. It's all run independent and out of pocket. Telling a friend or sharing on social media are great ways to help out too. Here we go.
Send me back to Italy. I'd go willingly.
Hey, Sam Kittori going over there.
I feel like that Sopranos episode where they go back to Italy.
Totally.
Oh my god, yeah, and they're like,
It's a gravy with the...
a lot of fish. It's good, a lot of fish. Well, that's good. I'm glad we're starting off with the consigliere of rooms.
Oh, yeah.
From the most New Jersey part of New York.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, well, you want to talk about the S.O.R.B.E.T tasting?
Let's talk about the S.O.R.B.E.T tasting.
All right.
Yeah.
How the S.O.R.B.E.T tasting come about?
The S.O.R.B.E.T tasting came about because Morgan Twain Peterson of Bedrock Winery and I were talking shit about Instagram posts, celebrating the beauty of sustainable wine country, and there was fields of mustard with strips of Roundup, and we're like, we can do better. And we recruited Katie Buncho into this because we thought maybe we'll do an Earth Day industry tasting at Abbott's Passage, and somehow that grew into a public tasting at Fort Mason, August 17th, with now 35 wineries participating, 3 or 4 vineyards being highlighted, and the O.R.B. of S.O.R.B.E.T is organic, regenerative, or biodynamic. So everything that's being poured at this tasting is provably farmed. It doesn't have to necessarily be certified, but if you can prove that you're farming this way, even if you're not, paying the money to get certified, that you can be there and pour.
That's, you look at, if you're not certified, you look at your pesticide use report, per,
I don't know.
per.
Per.
So you can kind of check receipts.
Yeah.
Even if they're not certified, because obviously it's expensive to get certified.
Well, and then there's, actually, the reason that we removed the certification requirement was for our dear friend, who we all work with, Will Buckland, who is probably the purest of, the organic, regenerative, biodynamic farmers in the valley.
And that vineyard had been farmed organically going back to the 70s.
Yeah.
And dry farm.
Dry farmed. But the wonderful state of California maintains his property line and the poison oak with immense amounts of Roundup, to the point that he had to drop the certification because, the CCOF, I think, was just giving him too much trouble on it, and they kept, overspraying. It's not a part of the property where the vineyard is, but I had to drop certification. And I guess the point is that all of your best intentions sometimes run into bureaucratic walls and pitfalls. So we wanted to acknowledge that and acknowledge the difficulty that getting certified is. I'm a huge proponent of certification.
Me too.
Yeah, but it's not always possible. So.
Especially for small vineyards where one person wears many hats.
Right.
Having the time to go do all the paperwork and navigate it, and the cost can be a lot.
Totally.
But we're checking receipts, people.
Yeah.
Yeah. What makes you such a big proponent of the certification? I mean, aside from, I guess you have that permanent receipt, but...
It's the forced transparency.
Okay.
That that if there's a a CCOF sign or an ROC sign as you drive into a winery or vineyard, that they've gone the extra mile and everything's verified, and that they're standing up for the importance of these organizations that have been promoting, CCOF have been promoting organic farming since the 70s. And, there's an importance of, joining and supporting and helping fund those movements as we move forward.
What do you think has made Sonoma such like I guess a hotbed kind of for this type of farming, either regenerative, organic, biodynamic? I mean, I know your family has
Yeah,
a pretty big stake in that, but just going back, like why Sonoma?
that's a great question. I think proximity has a lot to do with it. Being this rural farming community, but also being 45 minutes from San Francisco and Berkeley. I point to Alice Waters, bringing that ethos into the region, and then, us in Sonoma being, the closest place to sort of accept that and apply that, and then, started, supplying Shape and East, and then kind of growing from there. And Sonoma, less than it used to be, was always a landing spot for some of the crazier farmers among us. You go back to Jack London and all the things that he did up there. So and my dad was a hippie, and he came here and brought some things together, and of hippie and a farmer. I mean, I think that's that confluence of like hippies and farmers. I don't know.
Your dad had a huge influence. I mean, obviously he was at least the first vineyard viticulturalist manager that like advertised that he was farming organic, right? Like in California, like he was a pioneer in that sense.
To only farm organically.
Yeah, to only farm organically, exactly. I think there's also just a general energy in Sonoma that kind of has always been progressive.
Rebellious.
Yeah, a little rebellious. Certainly with who's gonna call it Vegas, the guy who Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Hunter Thompson living up on Sonoma Mountain.
Glen Ellen shooting guns. Certainly I would say the most rebellious maybe resident of Sonoma ever. But no, and I mean, truthfully, I think your dad had a big part of it, and I also think my business partner and Morgan and Jake also had a big part of it. I think Will had a big part of it. There's a lot of people that have been thoughtfully farming here, but also without the weight and luxury aspect of Napa. I think there's a little more crunchiness here, where Napa has a little bit more of the consequences in some ways, or the box that you're typically supposed to be in, or the lane you're supposed to be typically in, is like a much narrower one than I think what you see in Sonoma.
Yeah.
So I think it allows a little more freedom to kind of push your farming or winemaking in a maybe more progressive direction sooner, when it's not necessarily proven yet. We're in Napa, right? I mean, would you agree?
Yeah, and I feel like what you're saying is a great point, because this situation in Napa creates hermetism within wineries, whereas in Sonoma,
it's a great way to put it.
You could create this community. And I think that when you are experimenting or doing something that's out of the box and it's unconventional, you need your neighbors. You need your neighbors and their experience, and be able to troubleshoot. And you never know if you're doing it right because you're new.
Right.
Because
I mean, it's not a coincidence that 2 of the 24 currently certified regenerative organic vineyards are across the street from each other. Right. And that one of the big pioneers of regenerative agriculture, even though he isn't certified, but definitely is like one of the cores, Jason Jardine up at Hansel, which is
he's
a mile away and then 1,000 feet up, right? Like that reverberation, really starting with your dad, I would say, but then it moves out is happened here.
You get like that mass of people. It just keeps
and you just
growing,
see you look at the vineyard and you're like,
and
and you look at a vineyard and you're like, oh, that looks really good.
Yeah.
And I also, to not be callous about it, I think that there's a sales piece of it too, which, in Sonoma Valley especially, we're lumped into, one of this large appellation, Sonoma County, and what happens in the rest of the county is really different than what happens here. And we're also neighbors to Napa Valley, where, we can't compete with them on that same level. And I think finding ways to differentiate ourselves, this valley, in the milieu of all of the wine of the world, I think pushes that a little bit too. Sorry to be callous. Chris is looking at me like, no, it's the philosophy.
You sell out of all your wine, so I don't know why you need to market.
A rising tide lifts all ships, Chris.
There you go.
But that box you're talking about, I think that's one of the things that strikes me if you look at the list of wineries, and it's a real large range of wineries, and once it's just on the surface, like it doesn't seem like they're tied together exactly like you have Fresco,
right? How do you
connect Hansel and
that's what's cool about it.
And
that's what's so
Capri,
cool about it.
And like
how do you draw a line from Marioni to Donham to Gloria Ferrer to Laurel Glen and then back? It's
the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's like the Historic Vineyard Society tasting, where you go into a room and it's not like, oh, this is a Pinot Noir tasting,
right?
Or this is a Napa Cab tasting. It's like you can taste wines from a variety of styles and vineyards and varieties made in very different ways, but there's a through line of we care about how these grapes are farmed, whether we're a big corporate winery or we're a tiny little winery, one man show, one person show. And I love tastings that have a through line, but aren't, again, there's a variety of taste and experience that you can have in a room. And this room's going to be filled with about as wide of a breadth of wine you can taste from California with a simple through line.
And all from this tiny little appellation.
It's a great learning opportunity, I think, for people, because as you're saying, if you go to a Pinot Noir tasting, you just get variations of the same, but with such variety, and also with people that's so passionate in what they do, you get to talk to them and see with one core value how many ways you can go about it. And I think the general public doesn't really have the opportunity to do that. As in the industry, we network, but people that can buy a tasting and have in one place so many producers that their values are so in sync, it's a special thing.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons we wanted to get it out of the valley. Is sort of break out of, we all know each other. We all, most of us love each other. Yeah. Most of us love each other's wines, and being able to like take it to where the people are, and believe that the folks in the Bay Area are going to be really receptive to the overall message and enjoy exploring just this crazy. When we got like Donham and Gloria on board, it was like that real turning point. I feel like to like this is important and powerful.
Not just a couple of you hanging out,
right?
Drinking
wine and talking shit about Instagram posts. We can do that anytime.
That's great, though. I mean, Fort Mason. I don't know that I've been to a bad event there. It's a great place to hold something, and right on the water. There, beautiful.
Standing on the shoulders of the Historical Vineyard Society giants, basically.
It's a really beautiful space. It's I think drinking wine in beautiful places I like doing, but also being in Fort Mason next to Green's, a restaurant like very famous, kind of pioneering restaurant in the sort of organic local food world, and there's also good parking.
Yeah, there's that farmer's market, right?
There's a farmer's market. There. You can go walk. The walks you can do around there are beautiful. So, like, I think it is nice to have a tasting like this in a place that is urban and kind of centrally located, where you have a lot of people from the Bay Area can come, but also like just the place itself is an attraction. Like going to Fort Mason is nice, so you can really make a nice day of it, and that's what we saw with the HVS tasting that we did there. Of like, and it's great for people that are coming out of town, from out of town. Yeah, talk about a great San Francisco day with your friends or family in town. Going to the school tasting, being around that very, very beautiful part of the city.
Yeah, go up to check out the Golden Gate Bridge and go up to
Marina
North
Green,
Beach and get
it's
some
iconic,
get some pizza up the street. Lot to do there.
And it's $65.
Right.
Nice.
Like with probably 120 wines in the room.
Well, it's 30. How many were we up to? Like 35 wineries.
Yeah, so four
four
each.
wines. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. If you need help if you need help guiding your way through, please email Sam at winery16.
Look for the handsome guy with the beard. One of us will get you there.
What was the thought behind the vineyard designated tables?
To show like how important these vineyards are and the way that they're farmed to a wide variety of winemakers, many of which, aren't necessarily Sonoma Valley based wineries, and wouldn't have enough wine to have an entire table for themselves. But to show like, how important these vineyards are to all of us, whether or not you're, buying fruit or getting your arm twisted into buying Merlot from Bedrock Vineyard, or with Montecillo and the Stewart family and Blair Guthrie taking that over recently, sort of bringing that to a level of prominence that it hasn't necessarily had over the last decade or so. I know you guys make great wines from there, but it's not something that is necessarily talked about in the same level of like Bedrock and Monte Rosso and stuff like that, and really just to give an opportunity for more wineries to participate in ways that have some meaning.
Mm-hmm. Buying fruit is a huge part of California wine culture and winemaking, right? I think it's an important thing that there's a lot of wineries that buy fruit, but buy fruit from excellently farmed vineyards.
Right.
Yeah,
and opens opportunities for people that don't have the means of growing their own grapes, but they still want good quality grapes for their product.
Yeah. So is Montecillo, Bedrock, Rossi Ranch,
Monte Rosso,
and Monte Rosso. Okay.
I don't know if we successfully convinced the corporation to have a Monte Rosso table.
Well,
So
I'll pour Monte Rosso.
Perfect. And I think
Reprimand.
Pangloss will be, I believe, and I'm blanking right now on it's people that have their own table. But I don't know.
One of the most important vineyards in California history.
Yeah.
It'll be there.
Yeah.
In some fashion.
It'll be there in a lot of ways. There'll be a lot of Monte Rosso poured there.
Which ones are the tables of single vineyards?
Bedrock, Montecillo, Rossi, and then an Enterprise Vineyards grab all table of the few wineries and winemakers that we farm that aren't already signed up.
I mean, just Montecillo, though. I mean, it's 1968 plantings at 2,200 feet, dry farmed Cabernet. Like in California, that is incredibly rare.
Does it exist anywhere else?
It doesn't really exist anywhere else. It doesn't. And, but then again, next thing you know, you can have a Viognier from a great producer, the greatest producer of California Viognier, Mr. Sam Coturri, and then you can go try an orange wine from Jack, right? Sparkling wine.
Right. Mm-hmm. Sparkling wine from the greatest producer of single vineyard sparkling wine in California.
Hey now, I threw that one up for you. Thank you. I was fishing.
I got you.
Give him the alley-oop. What, whether it's, I guess, organic, biodynamic, or regenerative, what's it mean for the current industry when maybe some sales downturns and maybe a little harder time to sell wine than previously? It's a lot of extra work and certifications and just labor. I was just curious how that comes together in your eyes.
Well, one of the reasons that we wanted to do this was this type of farming and this, caliber and size of wineries are one of the few like bright spots in the wine market out there. There's where the growth is happening. So we wanted to like bring that together and bring all of our energy together and push that. And I'm going to kick it to Chris, who spends way more time in the market than I do, and what those conversations are like around the type of farming that we're doing.
Yeah, certainly this year.
Yeah.
Morgan and I have traveled more than we've ever traveled before, but it's been great. And I think, the data points or whatever, the interactions I've had with people, even in the last year, but I would say for some time now. I think when I was coming up in New York, where I got to meet a bunch of winemakers and have dinner with them and also go visit their wineries, the conversation when you're talking about the vineyard was much more focused on like Is it limestone or granite?
Or is it volcanic?
Right.
Moon Mountain.
What's the aspect of the vineyard? Is it southwest? Is it southeast? Is it mid slope, bottom slope, or top slope? These sort of very geology based, aspect based sort of describing of terroir and what it represented in their winery and their wines. Whereas now, I'd say certainly in the last 5 years, particularly, the first question that I would get asked probably when talking about the vineyard, with Bedrock Vineyard, saying, oh, these vines were planted in 1888. It's a field blend of 29 different varieties. The follow-up question wouldn't be like, well, is that on basalt or is it on silt and clay? It's like, well, how are you farming that vineyard? And then that leads into a conversation, well, we're farming regeneratively. And so I think the questions that both consumers and professionals and what they're interested in more so now in general is like less of like soil based. It's much more farming based or microclimate based too, right? Like I think the farming question when it comes to vineyards and the excitement about talking about vineyards is how they're farmed and how you're progressing your farming to not just make better wine, but a better community around that place.
Yeah. I think people is more educated on the impact that what you have in your glass has in the environment. Like before, they were just looking at the product itself,
Right.
and more they are educated on what you have in your glass has a huge impact on our environment, our labor, in the society. So they are starting to get more educated on these questions and what they want to consume.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the guy, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point where it's the vineyard aspect, but it's also labor and people involved and making it sustainable for everyone.
I think that's the understand part of winemaking. It's like it takes a lot of resources and it takes a lot of people in the vineyards and in the cellar and many years and a lot of space. And
I mean, that's an argument for certification for regenerative organic through the Regenerative Organic Alliance is one of those things is that there's 6 principles of regenerative organic farming. And one of them is context. That also includes, you have to show that you're paying your people living wage. They have access to healthcare, which I really love. It's one of the things I love about it. And I think that's a strong argument for getting certified regenerative is that it's not just about how you farm it, but also how the people that farm it are treated as well, which is kind of important. I mean, Steve Mathiasen has the best line about it, where he's like, people always ask me how much sulfur I add to the wine. They never ask whether I give health insurance to my employees.
Right.
yes.
Yeah, hits deep.
And that's tying exactly what you were saying, why certifications are important. Because you can call your vineyard sustainable. And people think that's certification, maybe,
Right.
And you might be the worst in terms of like humanitarian practices.
Yeah, and I think this is an example of if this tasting is successful and people come out and wineries see the impact afterwards, where they're like, oh, I'm selling more wine because I'm part of this collective, then they're going to be more motivated to get certified. It's that neighbor thing, right? It's like all of a sudden being able to say you're certified, you're seeing tangible financial benefits from it.
Keep up with the Petersons, man.
And you see examples,
Sam and Morgan are like weirdly competitive because they grew up together. They're both highly intelligent, smart winery owners. And
He was always a little smarter.
you were a little better looking.
Well, I'm not a redhead.
Because Enterprise has had a lot of long-term employees, I think, also. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's one I don't know if you were recording yet or not, but before we started recording, we were talking, all this ICE and immigration bullshit. And one of the things that, when I talk to people about it and, talk to journalists and reporters about it, it's not a labor thing. It's not a workforce thing. It's these people that are, my uncles. They're my family. There's a dozen people on the crew at Enterprise Vineyards who've been working for Enterprise Vineyards longer than I've been alive, and it's their families and that you think about, and for sure, I would imagine that they wouldn't have stuck around if they didn't like what they were doing and weren't treated well. And I think a big part of it is they come to work every day and know that they're not going to be applying deadly chemicals and poisons, on these vines that they love and bringing it home, on their clothes to their families and into their homes and stuff. And I think going back 40 years, that's why, a lot of those folks have stuck around.
Your dad's a good guy.
Yeah. He's a better guy if you're not his son.
I mean, I think this is going to be the 44th harvest that Miguel has done in Dos Limones.
Totally. 100%.
That's 44 years picking the same vineyard.
Amazing.
Yeah.
He's a well of knowledge.
Yeah. Well, that must be great to have. 44 years, seen a lot of harvests in that vineyard. Probably knows it like the back of his hand.
Down to the vine.
Yeah.
It's good to see this institutional knowledge because it puts everything into perspective. I think when people is new to a place, you freak out about things or like the industry changes, but when you've been in it for so long, everything is relative.
Yeah.
It's good to have these people around.
Totally. And now we have their, children and nieces and nephews and son, daughters-in-laws part of the company too, which is super gratifying. The kids who, were born here and grew up here are following in the footsteps of their family members because it's great work and it's a great place to be.
Yeah. Family business.
Totally.
In lots of ways. How does some of these farming practices, whether it's organic, biodynamic, or regenerative, how are they helping with like either climate change or just weird California strangeness, heat spikes, frosts? Obviously, smoke that's a whole other thing. But
I think it is an endless conversation, right?
Sure.
There's any aspect you want to look at. If you're looking at climate, you're looking at soil, but the connecting string is you're building resilience instead of leaning towards short-term convenience, right? So you could lean into this convenience of like, I'm just going to do something that's going to help me for this year. But what you're doing is doing all these practices that might not have an immediate effect, which is a little bit discouraging, right? So to put an example, you might be, crimping your vineyards and you don't see an immediate result because apart from like keeping moisture and the temperature of the soil being lower, you don't see like an immediate result in terms of organic matter or the texture of the soil. But if you do it for long enough, you will see a new ecosystem that used to be there before it was disrupted, being created. And it's very gratifying when it actually happens and you see that balance has been restored, but it takes a long time. And I went on a tangent, but coming back to your question, it helps with restoring the balance that was there before monoculture practices wiped out the trophic chain hierarchy. And I think that's the main thing because nature has a way of balancing itself out. And all of these mechanisms have been disrupted. And by adopting these practices, we are restoring it. And that's my take on it.
I mean, I can add some stuff to that. 30% of carbon released into the atmosphere is from agriculture. And for example, when we're talking about what we're doing at Bedrock with converting to no-till, we can actually not only not release carbon, but we can actually sequester carbon.
Yeah.
When you're talking about, pest, for every one pest in a vineyard or a farm, there's 17,000 beneficials. So right there, you're encouraging biodiversity by not spraying an insecticide. I do think the cooling of the soil, because also it comes down to like, where does this ultimately go with like the wine itself? And like, I think cooling down your soil, where like our no-tilled section, or all of it's no-till now, but non-tilled soil on a 100-degree day will be 80 degrees. A tilled piece of soil will be 150, which again, like that affects wine quality. It affects vine health. And also a healthier vine is able, just when you give a vine a system to really thrive in with living soil, right? Which is a big part of what we like to talk about. A healthier vine can handle climate change better.
Yes.
You have, there's some simple things, of like leaf hoppers, right? The healthier the vine, the stronger the leaf sort of armor is. So that pest can't damage that vine as easily because it's healthy and it has a defense system. Same thing. There's so many analogies you can do with like humanity, right?
Yeah.
Like the microbiome being healthier means that you can fight disease better. So I think from a climate perspective, it's going to be really important to convert to this way of farming, because there's not going to be something that you can buy from the chemical salesman that's going to fix, a potentially warming, more volatile, at least, climate that we're facing.
The thing that we've been talking about at the Eco Farm conference a lot over the last 4 or 5 years, and kind of ties into the amount of carbon released by agriculture, is the flip side of that is true, is that agriculture has the opportunity to be a really important piece of solving the climate.
Sequestering carbon.
Right.
You can pull it out of the atmosphere while also providing food and drink to people.
Exactly. And that's what I love about S.O.R.B.E.T is we're including part of the food options are Stemple Creek and Toluma Farms, places that are practicing in these same ways. And what I love about the wine industry and the opportunity of the wine industry, over the past 40 years, the wine industry has lifted up the organic movement. It's lifted up the biodynamic movement, and has this opportunity to lift up, and is, these high profile vineyards and wineries, getting regeneratively organic certified, lifts that whole concept into the public narrative in a way that, carrots and lettuce just can't. They're not as sexy as wine, right?
Yeah.
Which is really interesting, because like in the regenerative movement, it actually, I feel like biodynamics was always, for example, more focused on grape, viticulture, and then it spread to other agricultural products, where regenerative was the inverse, where it was more food growers. Like two of the most famous people in that movement are Gabe Brown, who's a food farmer in North Dakota, and Will Harris, who's a cattle rancher down in Georgia, and they've been pushing this farming. And I think, but wine in general can be a leader in pushing farming philosophies. But, also there's cotton, right? We're going to have our good friend Harry Root from Grassroots all the way out in South Carolina, who's been he's our distributor there, a big proponent of regenerative farming because of his friendship with Will Harris for years and years and years before it became a buzzword like it is now. And he was in India for Rajpar's wedding, and then heard about this regeneratively farmed, the only regeneratively farmed certified cotton farm outside of India. Wow. He went there, geeked out with the guy, and so now if you go to S.O.R.B.E.T, the merch is going to be we're going to have regeneratively.
I didn't know that in context of that story. I love that whole thing.
Regeneratively farmed cotton heavyweight S.O.R.B.E.T t-shirts. I mean, come on. Yeah. That's like, you eat some Tulum cheese, have some of the best meat in the world, drink some of the best wines in the world from a beautiful place in a beautiful place, and then roll out with a dope t-shirt. Come on.
With a crimper on the back.
With a crimper on the back. It doesn't say like our Harvest shirt, though. Crimping ain't easy.
Crimping ain't. It's implied. It's implied.
It isn't easy. It isn't easy, right?
No.
Yeah.
That point about it being kind of a value-added product, though, is interesting with wine. And Well, farming follows it through the entire process, but it's not. It's different than a organically farmed carrot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it lasts longer, right? I mean, that's one of the great things we love about wine is, we can look at a bottle and it has a date on it and it tells you something about that year. Now, the 2025 wines from the Bedrock Vineyard, you're like, oh yeah, that's the year that they became regeneratively organic certified, and we'll talk about that in 10 and 15 years.
Yeah.
So I think that that's part of the opportunity that bringing wine into this conversation brings to us.
Yeah, and you could taste the difference, right?
Right.
Our wines are going to taste different from, even though they're not that far apart year-wise, our 2020s and 2021s are going to taste very different than our 2024s and 2025s.
How
In
can you
what
improve
way?
on perfection, Chris?
There is no such thing as perfection. It's all about the pursuit of perfection.
There we go.
But ultimately, you'll never get there. But the pursuit, day after day, right?
Yeah. In what way do you think they have changed since you've moved towards more regenerative?
Oh, how the wines have changed? It's funny. I was just talking about this yesterday with my close friend. It's going to be like a lifetime of that's such a cop-out answer. Like a lifetime of figuring out exactly how the farming has affected our wine specifically. But I will say, in general, and this has been going on since we, started converting to organic and adding organic matter in the soil, the vines becoming healthier and healthier from when we took over the vineyard where they're really conventionally farmed and on the verge of death. We get better flavor at lower sugar. So we're able to pick with the same density and complexity and just
The phenolics that you want.
the phenolics that we want, while not having to wait super ripe to get some of those more complex flavors. And it does seem to be affecting the pH, definitely lower pHs. So the wines feel fresher. They feel more vibrant. And the tannic structure definitely has just become more refined, for a better word. Bedrock particularly is a really rocky site and was kind of always known for having pretty muscular tannins. That could be a little disjointed, particularly when they were young. They needed a lot of time. Now you still have the lumber, the support of the tannins that are there, but they just feel much more integrated with the fruit and acid. But really how it affects how the wines age and what they do, we don't know yet. Yeah, we don't know yet. But
I think that's the honest answer, because it's a forever learning experience. I feel like the more you learn, the more you know you don't know anything, and that's life.
I think the word that you used was vibrancy, and what I've seen in vineyards that have been converted from conventional farming to organic or more, it's the intangibles of how you feel when you taste or drink that wine. The flavor notes are probably more in line with the vintage and the clone and the soil and so on, but just there's intrinsicness in a farmed product grown this way that feeds into things that we need in our soul that you're not getting from conventionally farmed products. And whether that's wine, or again, not to pick on lettuce and carrots, but you even if there's not a objective way of saying this tastes different, it feels different. It makes you happier in a way that you can't find in the dopamine of Instagram scroll or something. It's just
I agree.
Hell
100%.
yeah. Hell yeah. That was the intangibles thing. That was good. That was good.
I should have
and
a podcast.
Yeah.
But I agree
I would think your
100%.
fermentations must be
Healthier
better
fermentations for sure. Yeah,
also.
especially for us using native yeast. Yeah,
Because-
healthier fermentations for sure.
Regardless of if there's changes or not in the product, you want to support what that company is doing in terms of their ethics and their practices. So it doesn't, for me, for example, it really doesn't matter if it changes your final product.
That's the
What-
farmer in you.
Yeah, it matters.
Not the winemaker.
You can charge more for the grapes, maybe.
But it's at the end, are you going to support someone that is subtracting or someone that's adding.
I mean, though, going to I love carrots, by the way, and lettuces, but like your intangible thing is really good because like me not having grown up with the bounty like you have of California agricultural products, not having gone to a farmer's market until I was in my 20s, probably. When you taste organically grown carrot that's relatively freshly picked, that carrot tastes more like a carrot.
Right.
Like there is this level of flavor that I experience with like essence. Like it's amazing when you get to first have that like real ripened tomato. You know, it that's organically farmed and not conventionally farmed. I think Morgan also has told me and said on maybe your podcast that like there actually is the fruits and vegetables that are grown in that way are actually more nutrient dense. Right. So like there is like a scientific sort of thing you can point to of like, oh, if we farm better, this food will actually have more nutrients in it and be better for you. It's not that you're not putting microplastics or pesticides in your system. It's actually the vitamin C and vitamin B are denser within that product.
This is just personal experience and might not have anything behind it. But I grew up in Spain and I grew up in a farm, and all the veggies were grown at home and all the meats were grown by our neighbors and us, and still happens. And then I moved to the US and I feel like I eat so much more in Spain. So like quantity wise, not thinking about how many times I eat during the day. And I lose weight and I feel better. And then I come here, I'm so conscious about my diet. Where do I source the fruit? Everything. And I'm way more tired, way more bloated. I gain weight. I'm like, how is that possible?
We got to get you on the Canard CSA, right? I mean,
totally. Well, somebody has to have time to go to the farmer's market because nobody has who's available at 9:00 on a Friday morning anymore. But
Did
he? Yeah, I think there's a psychological aspect of it too, from our standpoint, and this is why sorbet is so important. Is that when you're eating these foods that were grown in responsible ways, or grilling that meat or opening that bottle of wine, you know the winemakers and the farmers, you go into it with a different mindset. I don't know if I can necessarily define it, but when you walk into Sorbet, there's going to be 150 wines that were grown with this level of intention, and you are going to feel better the moment you walk in the door because you don't have these lingering questions. When you open a bottle of Bedrock or 16600 or an Enterprise Vineyards farmed winery, you have you're just in a better state of mind because you know that the people who made it care as much as you do, which you don't necessarily know. Even opening the best wines of the world, unless you have done the research and they have told you how they're doing it and they're certified, so you can believe them. You don't have that same level of like assurance.
Yeah.
Right.
And knowing about the producer and what they do, it's like and supporting it, it's like you're paying some kind of respect to the land. Like you know that whoever was making this appreciated and paid respect to what was given to them. And I think as a consumer, that's your responsibility.
Totally.
Do you have other things planned for Sorbet in the future? Like, is it going to be a permanent group type thing?
We have
dreams
more than
outreach
plans
and things like that.
I think HVS as a Historic Vineyard Society is in a similar position where I think there's a lot of people that are very excited, and HVS event sold out and was incredibly successful. But these are not HVS is actually a certified nonprofit, but we need people to support it and to make the monies available to do more stuff with it. Like I think if we brought this to New York, it would be a huge hit. Totally. But so travel expenses and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. So I think this first tasting will be a really important moment, and why we're here promoting it, because this goes well. People come out, right. They're going to be excited. They're going to have a great day. And then it's like, okay, we can roll this into an LA tasting. Maybe. Right. Yeah. I also think, we have to talk about it, but I think maybe do a dinner that I'm talking about with Harry
Okay.
at a certain very progressive, delicious restaurant.
Okay.
As maybe a little thing, a little after sorbet.
Okay.
Or preview to sorbet.
All right.
But yeah, it's got a ton of bread. Am I wrong?
I like dinner.
I mean, this is Katie, Morgan, and Yu's thing. But
No, I mean, first of all, even though, we're the ones who came up with this crazy idea, I don't think, I speak for those two, I hope, that I don't necessarily think we want it to just be our thing. I think the point of it is to really be something that helps bring this community together. And, the rising tide, analogy, totally overused, but, we want to be just another one of the ships in the port rising along with everybody else, and taking it to, beyond San Francisco and going to New York, going to LA, bringing in, other producers and other farmers, making it more than just tastings, dinners, conferences, whatever it is definitely the point of, building this. I don't want to say building this movement, but riding the wave of this movement that's been going on for a long time.
It's nice. It's like Sonoma is not just a closed group, that's what we do. And we have a network within Sonoma. It's nice that you guys are doing this and be like, okay, we are so open to collaboration to everyone, and we want everyone to be included in this. So I think a lot of people is going to feel more inclined to reach out and to share their experience or what they are doing, which ultimately will benefit all.
I think the goal of this year, it's 30 wineries or 35, whatever. Let's get 5 or 6 more producers to get on board because they saw this as a success, and so it's not just promoting our wines, but it's promoting good farming. My dad talks about this all the time, where you stand in most of the vineyards you farm and you look out over San Francisco and the Bay. Everything that we do is affecting 8 million people who live in the Bay Area. It's not just the neighbors, it's not just the people working on the vineyard. So the more that we can do to help bring along friends of ours who haven't gotten to where we have yet, that's selling out will be great. Selling more wine because of it will be great. But if we can continue to promote and build on this kind of farming, that's really the success.
To add on to that, for a long time, people were like, oh, you can't farm organic Chardonnay and Carneros, right?
Yeah.
People would say that it's impossible, right? And I think with this tasting, and if people get excited about it and us promoting it, there's no reason that Sonoma Valley, Sonoma AVA, shouldn't be 100% organically farmed, right? Like, there's no reason.
Nothing is impossible.
It's not even
more difficult, and there is something
to get there, but then ultimately, when you get over that hump, suddenly you actually have to do less in your vineyard, right? Like, that's the thing. It's maybe difficult and more expensive to get there, right? And that's kind of how we look at it. That once you get over that hump, suddenly you're having to do less work in the vineyard.
It's funny what you're saying. It reminds me of something that Laura Catena said once, and she was like, you need to know your science so you can make art. And I think that's it. You need to put the work into it and work on it so you can actually experiment it, right?
Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Now, Laura's a total G.
Yeah.
I do like that line. There's so many good, But hey, this is successful. Next thing you know, we already have a really high percentage. That's one of the instigators of this.
2,500 acres of Sonoma Valley's 1,400 planted acres qualifies for this tasting,
which is much higher than you would see in a lot of other California regions,
for sure.
And those advantages must just build as you get more neighbors looking across the street, and
we've seen it live happen. Like, I've seen it happen, like, physically with my eyes, and had the conversations of neighbor farmers going, wait, what? You don't have to spray for spider mites? And it's like, nah. Like,
if you don't strip their natural predators,
it's
you will not have to take care of them.
And they're like, wait, what? And
that must feel great as you get like bigger and bigger contiguous chunks.
And sometimes it's amazing. I get surprised all the time. Like, we creamed a vineyard that was tilled for a long time. And suddenly, 2 years after crimping the row, which is not much, 2 years, you could grab a fistful of dirt with worms on it. So many worms. When that used to be like dusty, and a rainstorm would take all the dirt off. So
I mean, yeah. Then when you get into with no-till, get into like water holding capacities and health to the microbiome of the soil, while also not having as much water run off the vineyard. The other thing, we're both kind of talking a lot about sort of regenerative organic, obviously, but I do think it's important to note the organic and biodynamic part of this as well, because they're all three mean you care about the environment, you care about the grapes that you work with. Sure, you may have a different philosophy or technique at one point or another. You know, Jake, Morgan, what we've been doing out at Bedrock Vineyard has changed a lot what we thought was doable. So, you know, you're always evolving as a farmer, but if you're going to pick three cores that really are related, even though they have some differences, organic, biodynamic, and regenerative are kind of, they're all complementary to each other, just with like slightly different sort of takes on it.
And sometimes with regenerative, I think it can be a little bit tight, because some vineyards, of course, you can move towards regenerative, but they don't have the soil, or like this like very broken up like volcanic soils, you know, that yes, they have the capacity to become regenerative, but for a lot of people where they are at with their production, what they can do is organic. And I think that's okay. It's better than just sprayed Roundup.
Obviously. Yeah. No, and that's, you know, context is important.
Context is very important.
Who's the wineries you're most excited for? Like what's the, this is hard. Matt,
Yes.
have you looked at the list?
I have it right here in front of me, actually.
What when you come, I hope you're coming.
Yes.
I think we know
what are
what
the tables?
there?
What are the tables?
You know, Hanzel's pretty exciting. Once in Future, those wines are always pretty awesome. Yeah.
Too bad. Good thing this isn't a video podcast.
Love you, Joel.
Buckland. You know, there's a few wines on here that are kind of out of my price range generally, also, that I'm excited to taste. I think I think otherwise I have not tasted and probably can't necessarily afford to taste, you know. I don't know if I should say those ones or not.
Yeah, same.
Well, I was going to
No, and
I mean,
and not just because they're probably farmed by Enterprise Vineyards, but this is one of the points of this is
You are drawing us to the mud.
it does. That's my job. I'm the PR guy. Is that it does? There are costs to farming these ways, and those costs should translate to the bottle price. And so if you're average wine consumer, I don't think you're an average wine consumer, but you know, you've created a podcast out of your love of wine, so that's way above average. But if you're an average wine consumer and you see two bottles on the shelf and one is $5 more than the other or $10 more than the other, that there's reasons that for that price to be there, and why you should choose that $10 more bottle over the the less expensive similar appellation variety whatever, because of the farming and the dedication that they're putting into the their farming. So you can say them. Yeah, you can say them.
well, I was wondering, like, how much do you, I guess, kind of promote that on a label? How important you feel it is to sort of have that info available for an average consumer? I guess the 16600 wines are probably mostly mailing list. I imagine your
Tasting House, mailing list, membership,
and Bedrock also a lot of DTC, but maybe some of the other ones that rely more on retail sales. Do you think people see a big
Sam and I
big
both
jump?
Sam and I both need distribution sales too, and it's important to support your DTC, direct to consumer, winery. You need to also have customer acquisition, right? I mean, people find wine via having a great glass of wine at their favorite restaurant or having it at their going to a cool independent retail shop that cares about what they're selling. The thing that I think is the low hanging fruit for like promoting and having it like where it's easy for consumers to like recognize it is a place like Sonoma's Best, instead of it being like, oh, the Beaujolais section, oh, the Riesling section, oh, the California Cabernet section. It should be the Sorbet section, right? Like actually categorize wine not by variety, but by, and not just by place, but a combination of place and philosophy behind the farming. So I think that's a easy one.
Totally. Yeah. The labeling question of it has always been kind of a tricky thing. And 40 plus years of, between Kateri Winery and 16600, we've never made an organic claim on the label, even though we could. And that's because, in sort of direct, inverse proportions to back to carrots and lettuce, you go to the store, you're going to pay a few bucks more for your carrots and your lettuce. Early on, the labeled organic wines were of lesser quality and lower price than just about everything else in the market, and it sort of set a consumer position in that way. And so I know a lot of especially early organically farmed wines never said anything about it on the label, but it's starting to change. And then again, that's part of what we're doing Sorbet for, is to help sort of push that change, where now there are many wines that are farmed organically that say that, or, are you going to put the rock symbol on the back of your label when you guys start putting those wines out? I mean, it's a tricky question, right?
Well, yeah, because there's kind of two sides to it. Rock, I guess, is different. The RC is a little different, but, obviously there's like an aesthetic sort of aspect, like how your label looks, and people put a lot of work into the design of their label, so that's something to consider. But even with just the labeling of organic wine, there's also like some regulation that I would disagree with, like that you have to use liquid sulfur instead of which is like, I don't know if anyone out there has ever smelled a liquid sulfur addition. It is way crappier to be in the winery than traditional sulfur, and that's like, I don't understand why that's part of the regulation. Like, it doesn't
I don't
know why that, it's just one of those random things too. But I think a sorbet on the label, or you
need a revolution in here, I'm telling you.
That's what we're doing. We're starting the revolution.
You need a revolution.
I think more of a fun, exciting, not pretentious, it doesn't need, we aren't saving the world here, but we're doing our little part to make our little corner a little better, and we want to share the excitement that we have for it. Cool. And like also a few other people that aren't even in wine share what they're excited about.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sam's going to take over the world, obviously.
He's a politician.
That's what I try and do every night. Me and Pinky, or maybe somebody else is the brain. I'm not sure.
Maybe you and Morgan can do like a costume.
Yes,
thing.
Except for he's the brain and I'm the Pinky for sure.
No one can really. Yeah.
No. We can't both be the brain. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, you want to tell people how to get tickets and any details? Any other wineries that you're excited about?
Sunday, August 17th from
1 to 4, I'm pretty sure, at Fort Mason. If you just Google Sorbet, S-O-R-B-E-T tasting, it pops up. You can also find a link under the events tab at the winery16600.com website. We have an Instagram account that has a link to it, s.o.r. You know the rest, tasting. And it'll be, especially if you follow any of our Instagram accounts and social media, it'll be prevalent over the next few weeks.
The easiest way, Google I did it this morning. Google sorbet wine, and the first link that pops up on a Google search is the Winery 16600 website that has the link.
Good for our SEO. Yeah, must be doing something right. Really, it should be the Eventbrite link that Fort Mason put together for us, but whatever, I'll take it. I'll take the traffic.
Yeah, there you go. Take what you can get.
And yeah, it's $65. If you DM us or text us or message us, we'll probably give you the promo code.
Abbott's Passage, Bedrock Wine Company. Buckland Old Hill Ranch, Donham Estate, Freshco Wines, Guthrie Family, Good Luck Bunchu, Hansel, Hamel Family, Hillatara, Corbin Cameron, Kivelstadt, Laurel Glen, Marioni Wines, Once and Future, Pengloss, Repris, Stone Edge Farm, Violet's Paradise Wines. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Winery 16600, and more.
And more.
More.
Because I think we've had some more add-ons since then. Was Cayman on that list?
Nope.
Cayman's in there.
Roberto's going to be there?
Well, he won't be there, but somebody will be there.
Robert might be there.
Robert might be there.
No, there's some expensive wines on
Yeah.
there. I mean,
Yeah.
those are wines where
Phil farms them.
Phil farms them. They're expensive.
generally in tastings that have a lot of those wines, it would either be like a professional portfolio show where you have to be in the biz, or the price of entry would be triple digits.
Yeah, double the price.
At least. Yeah, it's, our own little mini Venus icons, whatever, the grand wine experience spectator. There's this range that is, from mom and pop startups, Dane Cellars, things like that, to, 100-point wines that are going to be all under the same roof. I said this in a pitch to a journalist. We truly believe that there has never been a collection of wines like this, with this level of farming, all from such a tiny geographic area, that's ever been assembled that I know of. At least I haven't been invited. So, and
it's particularly cool, the vineyard tables. I think that's really, really cool because, for example, with the event that Sandy puts together with 16600 War Enterprise about Rossi, you get to try so many things, and you're like, I cannot believe all of these came from the same property.
That's a great point. There's intellectually being able to taste 10 different expressions of winemakers' version of a single vineyard is like one of the most like beautiful intellectual pursuits that, going back in the day when I was first learning about wine, like, doing that in Burgundy, right? Like Chambertin, right? Like tasting 10 different producers of Chambertin and also seeing how different all those wines could be. It is a great point that
and it's
the
rare.
ability to taste, it's rare. Exactly. You don't see that a lot where they're lined up next to each other.
I was in an old wine tasting and someone brought a Chablis from the same vineyard, two different winemakers, same year. And it was so interesting. And I'm like, I wish we had more of these, right? And that's what this is bringing because, for example, Rossi could be like one block and we divide in like a Grenache block, which produces a lot because Grenache, it's huge. You might have 4 producers that are producing from the same block, same year, same vineyard. So it's like, what are you doing with these grapes and what does it say about your expression as a winemaker?
And it's cool too, because then it, sometimes it can be very different because like winemaking techniques or pick dates, but then that's cool. But then also I think what's really cool is like when you taste like different Monte Rosas together and different bedrock wines together, even though they're picked on different days, made differently, you taste the bedrockiness of it or the Rossi ranchiness of it.
Yeah.
Like when you're able to see that connection, that's like, then that's showing terroir, which is like very, very cool.
Yeah.
Like something I really like in wine is the sense of place.
It's like, that's the moment of like, you personify the vineyard, like, oh, that's an old lady kind of block. This is like the big showy bubbly. It's like really cool when you get to see all of this and just like the through line. You're like, oh my gosh, this is what we do.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
I'm more excited now. I've been talking about it for 5 months. This conversation has made me more excited about it.
Hey, good. Nice. It's a beautiful day in Sonoma.
It is a beautiful day in Sonoma.
It's been such a cool, wonderful year.
Yeah. If we don't have any heat wave, well, which we probably will, but if we don't have many heat waves, I think it's going to be an awesome vintage.
Yeah, we've had a good run.
Yeah.
Like 23s, 24s, and 25s, and like the 3-8.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to learn more about regenerative farming while tasting great wines, go visit Winery 16600 in the tasting house just off the Sonoma Square.
And if you want to dig deep on the history of California winemaking and vineyards, you got to go to the Bedrock Hooker House just off the Sonoma Square.
Matt, we are using your platform not only to help change the world in farming, but also promote our small family-owned businesses.
And I am glad you are using it for that. That's what it's here for.
Go up to Hansel too. I mean, there's a lot of, that's the thing too. Like the sorbet is maybe hopefully a gateway to people wanting to come up and visit, because looking at that list again, there's a lot of beautiful wines with a lot of beautiful views where people should go.
And a lot of
check
beautiful
out.
people making these wines as well.
True. True.
And a couple is Fresco and Marioni. You can taste them just on the other
Right
side
over
of
at
the
Dose Bar.
square there.
Totally.
Yeah.
The Bedrock to 16600 line with Dose Bar and Hardy in that and Tom Darling. You can spend a lot of time drinking a lot of great wine and never
I think you should do
get
it.
out of, get in your car.
Tour sort of thing, like you have a card and you have to check them
Like
all
stamp your
together,
passport.
You do a plaza day, and then you do a
Valley Day.
mountain day.
The mountain day.
Valley day. Yeah.
And you say it's like a weekend in Sonoma.
Totally.
A stamp.
Stamp.
I like.
Maybe that's the next thing.
Maybe
for
I should do
Sorbet.
your PR,
That's
you
good.
guys.
I like that.
That's
yeah.
fun, yeah.
The Sorbet,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Sorbet passport.
The person who's just complaining about all the hats that they have to wear as the director of viticulture at Enterprise suddenly now wants to take over the markenology.
You're hired.
Oh,
I suck at marketing.
we should also shout out Allie, who is our enologist at Bedrock Wine Company. She is, what would you describe her as in this organization?
Force of nature.
Yeah,
She's done most of the legwork. You got, 3 wine brats like me, Morgan, and Katie, who are very busy doing other things, socializing mostly, I think. So it was important. And same with Jasmine on our team here, to get some people who could dig in deep and do the dirty work. And and the fact that she's just like labeled as your enologist is such an understatement. She does so much more.
There's 5 tool players, and then there are Allie, who are 22 tool players.
Yeah.
Full on those like.
And
big,
she has
thick
always been
Swiss
like
Army
that.
knives.
I met her in Davis when she started her master's.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. She has a great capacity on staying on track and keeping people on track, which ADHD Sonoma people, because I feel like 90% of Sonoma
water.
has ADHD. She's probably working extra hard
I'm sure.
to make this happen.
100%. Thank you, Allie. We're eternally grateful.
All right. Well,
We'll see you at Sorbet.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Thanks for having us on, Matt, to promote
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you.
of course. Thanks.
Thanks for coming up to Sonoma on this beautiful day.
Always a good drive up to Sonoma.
Now it's time to drink some wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cut.
Thanks for listening today. Sorbet should be a great time and a chance to taste a wide variety of wines from an amazing lineup of producers, and all farmed biodynamically, organically, or regeneratively, and all from Sonoma Valley. The link is in the show notes for tickets. You can make a day of it in the city, check out the Golden Gate Bridge or North Beach while you're at it. You can follow the podcast on wherever you're listening and the Instagram at Indie Wine Podcast, and feel free to email indiewinepodcast@gmail.com with comments, questions, or feedback. If you're enjoying the podcast, I'd love it if you told a friend or wine lover about it and help spread the word. Rating, reviewing, or donating at patreon.com/indiewinepodcast helps too. It all goes to offsetting podcast expenses like gas money, podcast hosting, research books, and websites, and allows for more episodes. We'll be back soon with another episode. Have a good one.